Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah. Did you all have a look at those slides of marketing? I've sent you all the marketing slides, the last part of it.
Yes.
You received it. Hope you all had a good time yesterday. Shall we wait for a few more minutes? There are only about nearing 40. Yeah. Are you able to see the slide? Are you able to see the slide?
Yes, sir.
Good. Now we started the new unit on inventory control and management. We'll be going through this for a few more sessions. Basically, this gives us an idea what implications does inventory have, its importance, and the purpose of having inventories in an organization. And in the last class, we were just trying to understand the meaning of inventory, the importance. In the sense, we said it is a stock of any material or item in an organization. And we also have identified that it can preserve or store not only the worth of it, but we can also store the labor as well as the value of processing in the raw material. In addition to this, we also realize it is money in kind. Okay, so it is in that sense because we are storing it for a purpose, probably not for immediate use, but also for prospective future use. We often refer this as an idle resource of an organization. But it also has an economic value. Okay, we realize that it has economic value. And in many of the organizations, particularly the manufacturing organizations, or also the trading organizations, a large majority of its invested capital happens to be in the current assets. The inventories are considered to be the current assets. So, say for example, the online trading organizations, e-commerce sort of thing, like say Amazon, or large majority of their investment goes into the inventories. And probably even more than 50% of its total capital is only on the inventories. And when we talk about the trees, we probably come across aspects, particularly with reference to the manufacturing organizations, things like raw materials, which we process in order to make them much more useful. Yeah, raw materials which are much more useful. We wish to convert them, transform them into useful products. So we have raw materials, and those raw materials which have already started processed, put them to processing, where we started processing, they are called a work in process. Probably the value of such material is deteriorating with respect to the immediate value in the market. Probably raw material has a better value than the material that we already started processing. But for the organization that is processing these materials, the work in process includes the raw material cost plus the value of labor and processing that we have already done on that material. So that is work in process. Finished goods, probably we have reached a stage of processing where it is almost complete or it is about to be dispatched. It is about to be, the ownership of which is about to be transferred. So till the ownership is transferred, it is all considered to be a finished good. Okay. So here in this slide, raw materials at the bottommost of the slide says suppliers may produce or ship materials in batches. It has quantity, implications like quantity discounts, like the way you package it, you transport it, so the handling charges, freight on it, and so on and so forth. So it includes all these expenses as well. Whereas work in process is necessary in the process focused production and may reduce material handling and production costs. This helps in sometimes the material handling and the production costs. How and why we will discuss about the cycle of processing. And finished goods, essentially, this is a position where we have to decide what is the demand, what is the production capacity that we have, and what is the strategy that we follow. And depending upon these plans, we decide the type of inventories and amount of inventory that we are likely to maintain. And also, it also depends upon the distribution channels that we have, the distance or the geographical areas that we cover. Naturally, there is also inventory and transport. Okay. Having said this, let us come up with some basic definitions. The term inventory is used in a much broader sense, and it may be used as manpower inventory, equipment inventory, inventory of raw materials, inventory of finished goods, inventory of vehicles, and so on. And the inventory can be best defined as the physical stock of items that a business or a production concern keeps in hand for efficient running of affairs of its production. Okay. Inventory consists of raw materials, work in progress, and finished goods. So the purpose, the basic inventory here is, to keep the operations efficient. So, you remember we have defined marketing as making available the goods, the right product at the right time, at the right place, with the right convenience and right communication, right? And here we are trying to define again some such sort of operation here where we wish to see the organization has, when we talk about inventory control, the organization has two major concerns. The first thing is to minimize costs and maximize the service level. Okay, these are the two concerns of the organization. One is minimizing costs, maximizing the service level. Service level is the comfort and convenience that we are providing to the market, the ability to offer the product that is demanded in the market. And the opposite of service level is a stock out situation. That means to say the product is needed in the market, but the product is not available. It is out of stock. So the stock out situation is the opposite of the complement of the service level. In that sense, most of the organizations try to maintain a service level of at least 95%. That means to say there's a 5% possibility of a stock out for these organizations that's happening. Okay. Let me show you the other slide. Okay. Now let us try to see what are the functions. Why do we need this inventory? First of all, it gives us a better understanding of what inventories are all about. To maintain an independence of operation. We wish to decouple various operations that are involved in the business. Firstly, within the organization and also outside the organization. As we said, as an organization, we depend on other resources, other organizations as well. We have suppliers, we have customers. We have to basically satisfy the customers and also be satisfied with the suppliers. That particular context, there are also difficulties depending upon the capacity of operation that we have. I have to see that I am not starved of raw materials wherein my facilities become idle. Not only the manufacturing facilities, but also my human resources would be idling for want of material. Therefore, if I am to decouple any such sort of event happening, which would probably affect and have implications on my production, therefore, I have to be independent of this. How do I do this? How do I decouple this? To overcome such sort of eventualities or breaks in supply, I maintain certain buffer. I maintain certain stocks. And that would help me to overcome any such sort of variability in the supplies as such. For example, I am working well, but the location in which my supplier is probably suffering from a power cut. Okay? And the raw materials that he supplies are very important for me in coming out with my own product. Therefore, I am affected because I am starved of the raw material that I require. Similarly, it is not only power cut, there could be a strike going on in a particular industrial location, or there could be a break in transportation, or there could be a natural disaster somewhere where I am expecting my materials to come from. In that particular area, there is some natural disaster happening. So until things are, probably adjusted, I would be starved of material if I am dependent only on one such sort of a supplier, right? Therefore, I have to decouple and make myself much more, reduce my risk of operation in that particular sense. So I'm trying to decouple this.
Sir,
In
one
addition to
doubt.
this, yes, please.
What you're saying is if a company depends only on one supplier,
Yeah,
in the absence of that supplier, like if he faces some difficulty or calamity, then he will be starved of raw material or
materials. Yes,
material which he
yes,
works on. But
yes.
how can he avoid this, sir? By taking from various suppliers?
One, no, the strategy as it is simply we can assume is one is to minimize risk. We would like to identify more than one suppliers for one particular item that we procure. Okay. And not just identifying more than one suppliers, we would also like to see those suppliers to be cost effective for us. That means to say the price should be almost the same, or else it would have an effect on our selling price of our product or our profits that we generate. So, and the quality of material that is being supplied, the quantum of material that is being supplied, because the quality of our product is dependent on the quality of raw materials that we receive. So we have to ensure that we have such sort of a vendor who is likely to replace any such sort of arrangement that we have. So more vendors for the quality of raw material that we require, we need to identify. Next to this, if it is a temporary dislocation of operations, we probably can overcome this by having a cushion of inventory. Say, for example, at home you would have observed that we are not buying rice every day. If we are using rice for our food, we are not buying rice every day. We probably have a 20 bags or 25 kilo bags available for us, if not quintal or more, depending upon the location, depending upon the operations. At times, we also maintain a huge inventory of items. For example, if you are maintaining 20 kilos of rice, it doesn't mean that you maintain 20 kilos of sugar. It depends on your consumption. It depends on the variation. It depends on the availability. So on. Am I understood?
Yes, sir, that was the doubt.
Yeah. So depending upon the importance of the material, the amount that is being used within the process, and the availability of such sort of vendors of same quality, we maintain our inventories. Okay. At times, yes, if you are staying in a place like Saichen sort of thing, then the inventories are restricted. Of course, if you are there in such a place, you are probably in service with the army or so. So you will have your own regular supplies. But if we are to operate independently, we have to take care of the transportation time and the cost and so on and so forth. So the quantities that we have to procure at a moment has to be also decided. Okay, in addition to this, it is not only variability with respect to suppliers, but is also variability with respect to our own production process. I mean to say, when I have a line of machines in which I process my material to reach a stage of finished product, then the product depends on each of those machines on which I process my material. There is a sequence of operations, right? So the output of one machine is the input of the other machine. And if the production capability of each of the machines is not balanced, then I probably have to have an intermediate inventory between the processes itself. Are you all with me?
So can you repeat again?
I have a line of operations. There are several processes that my product has to undergo in order to reach a finished stage. Okay, from the raw material to the finished stage, there are, the material goes through machine 1, machine 2, machine 3, machine 4. Finally, it is packed in machine 5. So there are 5 different operations for me, right? So if the production capacity of each of these machines, machine 1, machine 2, machine 3, are not the same. Say, for example, the machine 1 can process 100 units. The machine 2 can process 50 units. The machine 3 can process 100 units again. The machine 4 can process, say, 100 units. And machine 5 can process 1000 units. So what will be my production capacity?
Minimum of all the 5.
Say it again.
Minimum of all the 5, which is the
The minimum
smallest.
of all the 5. So 50, I said, is the second machine. Yes, therefore, the output of this machine is 50. But what is the effective production capacity of my organization? My machines, all of them, most of them, except for one machine,
More than
has
500.
more than 100, right? Production capacity. So I'm not able to reach that stage. I'm only operating at 50% of my operations because of a bottleneck at the machine 2 level. So I have to come out with a strategy of increasing the machines there or increasing my operations. I operate it in more than one shift. I operate, if it is a very expensive machine, I probably operate it on 2 shifts, whereas other machines operate only on single shift, right? So I put it to maximum use. So that's how I try to balance my machines. Similarly, if I am to balance my machines with respect to the production capacity as well, with respect to the material flow, then I have to see that one machine suddenly had a problem with tools. One machine had suddenly broken down for maintenance. I had to set apart one set of machines for maintenance. So what happens to the other machines? The entire production will come to a standstill. So in order to overcome any such sort of eventualities or power fluctuations within the organizations or any such accidents happening, what I do is I maintain inventories within the materials being processed. So from stage 1, I maintain some inventories for stage 2 so that machine 2 becomes independent of machine 1. So it is decoupling within the organization. Am I understood?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this gives us some sort of a flexibility in our production schedules as well. Okay. And to provide such sort of, one more thing is when we are in marketing conditions, the demand and the sale is variable. And the variability of such sort of demand and sales is probably not, possible to be estimated perfectly. And in view of this, say for example, there is Raksha Bandhan, and I make certain items like Rakis for this. So it is a seasonal business that I get to use such products in the market. So what I do is I plan much ahead and see that my production comes to the capacity that I wish to market just before the Raksha Bandhan. And after that, the product has no value, right? So this is one. Similarly, there are seasonal businesses. I am a food processing organization. I make tomato sauce or ketchup sort of a thing. And tomatoes are, the harvesting season for tomatoes is probably this season. During winter, the capacity is much, much higher. The value of tomatoes come down during this particular season. At times, we have seen that the farmers are not able to sell their harvest, and the value comes down in January, sort of, probably 2-3 rupees a kilo, sort of, in places. Now probably nothing is less than 5 or 10 rupees. So that's the value. So organizations which process such material procure in bulk at that particular point, and semi-process this good as a pari or something, and they store it in a semi-processed stage so that the shelf life of this particular product can be enhanced. And whenever necessary, they make use of this semi-processed good to be converted into a finished product. So in such sort of variability of raw material delivery time or cost or pricing, so there are certain advantages that we wish to take from the market. So we procure. I probably gave you an example of one of our alumni who was making products out of animal horns. Did I?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I did tell you that he procures a large, I saw his unit full of bags of animal horns. Okay. Much more than his production capacity, because he has 13 different varieties, and animal horns are not by brand. We get whatever is available. And he has to choose, if he has to supply a particular color of buttons, he has to choose out of this. So he maintains a large amount of inventories on the animal horns. And probably, though there is not much of shelf life, not any concern of shelf life, but there is a problem of some insects drilling bores into those animal horns, which might affect the quality of the product that he is likely to provide. So these are certain difficulties. Sometimes we have shelf life, therefore our investment, say for example, in the case of a tomato sort of a thing that I was mentioning, you probably have to have a conditioned weather. That means to say you have probably keep them in a refrigerated place and cold storage, and you have to preserve them. And many a times, our Indian agriculture suffers because of lack of such sort of storage facilities. We are not able to preserve the harvest that we have. And many a times the harvest is lost because of rodents and pests on the farms. So 50% of it goes as waste, and we are able to only get benefit out of this. So sometimes we have to overcome these sort of materials. Okay, so these are some of the reasons why we have to maintain. So having said this, let me also, what is there on the heading? Yeah, types and functions of inventory. As I was mentioning to you, let me come to this particular stage of raw materials, work in process. Did I talk to you about the working capital cycle?
No, sir.
This is called the working capital cycle. Okay. Are you able to see this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. The inventories, I procure it from my cash resource. I convert my cash into raw materials. And raw materials, I store them as inventory. I process them to my need as per the requirements of the market, as per the requirements of the organization, as per the requirements of the strategy with which the organization runs. So some of the raw inventories are put to processing. For that matter, let me tell you that almost 95% of the time, inventories stay idle. The processing time is probably only 5% of the time that it stays with the organization. in majority of the organizations where processing takes place. So that is the sort of a time span that we have and the inventory that we hold. So the raw materials that we have already started processing is called the work in process. And these work in process, raw materials have changed their shape, their probably value also changes. In the sense, the amount that I get to sell a particular raw material in the market, I would not be able to get the same value for the work in process, because the number of people or clientele that would be requiring those sort of materials, which I have already made semi-use of those materials. Say, for example, I am trying to buy some wood for my house. I need logs of wood because the door sizes, the window sizes are very different. Suppose I start making use of this for a particular size of window or door, then this becomes work in process. Now, only people who has idea of similar size of doors or windows would be interested in what I have started processing. But as a wood, which is raw material, almost everyone who is wanting to buy wood would be interested. In that particular sense, my clientele is reducing when I put them into process. But for the organization which is processing, to make a finished product or a finished good out of this raw material, the value is the labor and the processing. I have put it to some such sort of a machine which gives a design on the door frame and door and so on and so forth. So there's a value in this. Okay, may not be adding strength, but it gives aesthetics. So that's a value that has been added to this sort of a good. So that is value for me as a product, but not for everybody. So in that particular sense, the value goes up. Raw material cost plus the labor and the technology that has gone into this is the work in process. And the finished good is everything else that we have added, further processing of work in process and the labeling, packaging, and the other sort of instruction materials that we give. And all this in order to protect the finished good is all inclusive of the finished good. So therefore, the finished good has the final value. And the finished goods are ready to be supplied to our distribution channel or to the customers. Therefore, until we convert this or change the ownership of this finished good, it is still an inventory for me. And even if I sell on credit, bills are credit, could be credit and cash. If it is cash, I am probably benefited. But if it is credit, again, it costs my organization the interest that I lose on this. Okay. Therefore, until the finished good gets converted into cash, it is still an inventory on me, unless the interest is being paid by the customer. You understand this? So this is a sort of a cycle that normally businesses operate. Now, let me also, having come to this particular working capital cycle, let me give you an idea of what this is. If I think that my business should have, say, 10% operational margins, that means to say, when I put 100 rupees investment in this, by the time I complete the cycle, I should get 10% profit. That means to say, 100 rupees invested as cash should become how much? Once it takes the whole turn?
110.
It should become 110. So the concern of every organization happens to be to churn this sort of a cycle as early as possible, or to reduce this particular cycle of operation. Because the number of cycles that I can operate, now what does this become? Right? 110 becomes 121. If I am plowing back all my profits into my business, 110 becomes 121. 121 again put into business becomes 132. So it goes on cycle and cycle, and business is interested in turnover. You understand this?
Sir, can you give example where bills are coming? Like in some organization, bills will be there. Normally, finished good will be directly as cash flow, sir.
It's not always. Suppose I am a supplier to a major organization. I am an ancillary unit to a major organization. Okay. I supply packaging material to an organization. So I make use of paper, then fold it, corrugate it, then fold it to the size that this particular organization requires, and finally apply gum and glue and so on and so forth, and give it a shape and probably print on it the label that it requires, and finally I supply it to the organization, a large scale organization, which is going to make use of my product. My product is only the packaging material. So on supply, it is not necessary that every time I get this money immediately. Okay.
So the company will be keeping it on hold, right?
The company
Money
has
to
a
be given.
method. No. Not necessarily keeping it on hold. The company has a process. When you buy your raw material, what do you do with your raw material? You accept everything.
Very check.
You have your own methods of counting, inspection, quality. You keep checking those materials, right? Even when you receive something at home, when you buy certain items, you check whether you received what you ordered for or not. When you place an order at Amazon or Flipkart or whatever, don't you check the material that you receive?
Yes, sir.
But you pay them immediately, and they operate the facility that probably you have here is COD, cash on delivery. Okay, you are gaining that sort of time till you receive the product. Is that not a
Okay, sir.
credit?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Understood.
So similarly, organizations I supply, but others have to believe that what material I supplied is what is ordered. So they have their own team of people who keep inspecting, storing them, and so on. And finally, once their store says, yes, received so many materials of this quality for us, and this is the rate that we have been paying them for, then the bill is processed by the account section. And the account section takes its own time of seeing whether this budget is available and so on. And then finally making payment. They issue a check. Earlier, checks were not payable at every station. Today, you have those multi-city checks, which can be treated as on par as demand drafts, right? So we had to wait till the check gets cashed. So that was all time that is lost. You understand now why it takes time from
Yes, sir.
bills
Yes,
to
sir.
be converted into cash? Yeah, this is one. The second important thing that I am trying to focus is the time that is taken in this process got to be minimum. From the time I have converted my cash into raw materials, I wish to see that back as cash. That is the most beneficial thing for the organization. The number of cycles that I can make within a short period. I'm a wholesaler. I sell my products to retailer, and retailer sells it to the customers. And at every stage, there is some such sort of a commission that is happening. The retailer has certain cushion, or he has some margins that he gains over the MRP. MRP is 10 rupees. Probably he gets it for 8.5. So he makes 1.5 rupees there. The wholesaler, instead of selling it for 8.5 to the customer, probably sells it for 7 rupees to this retailer. Okay. So he's looking for that 1.5 rupee margin. But there are certain wholesalers who do not mind whether it is the retailer or the customer directly, because they want to make their materials move fast. Their turnover, the turnout has to be much, much faster. So they look at the overall turnover, not on individual profit on each of the items that are being sold. That's the concept. Okay. So they believe on mass transactions. So this is one thing that I wish to highlight. So this is the working capital cycle. Now coming to this chart being shown, we have the first is the processing stage we have discussed. But say for example, if you are manufacturing a computer or a television sort of product, an electronics unit has several minute components, say ICs, resistors, capacitors, potentiometers, and so on and so forth, transistors, right? There are several of them, probably a few hundreds of them in certain items. So, and they also make use of washers, screws, nuts, nails at times, and cabinets, and so on and so forth. So how do you think that you give same priority to each of those items? Can you pay same attention to the screws and nuts as much to the processor chips that probably cost you very high, which are very critical for the product? Screws and nuts, you don't mind, you're losing one or two. Even if there is a spillover, you don't mind collecting it, right?
Yes, sir.
You find several nuts, bolts, and screws and things on the road as well. Nobody bothers even to collect them. So that's the value of that item. So based on the value of an item, there is a system called classification. So we wish to classify items as A, B, C categories and give priorities so that we do not spend so much of importance on each of those, because paying importance is paying money. So such sort of strict control also costs us, because the administrative costs of manpower, regular maintenance of records, all this costs us. Therefore, we try to minimize. Our basic objective is maximizing customer service level and minimizing costs. In that sense, we have to classify our products as ABC. We will come to this analysis called ABC analysis, which is a classification methodology. We try to identify a important few and the trivial many here. Okay, this is one thing that we will come. Then there is also something called demand, type of demand. We talk about dependent demand, independent demand. Can you guess what this dependent demand and independent demands are?
Sir, can I give an example? Like,
Yeah.
For example, there is a new mobile, completely new mobile, and uh, it's launched, and you are a company making some accessory especially for that mobile.
Yes.
So your accessory demand depends on how well the product gets sold, right?
Okay.
Yours is
Uh,
dependent and the mobile's one will be independent.
Not really in that particular sense. Probably you are close, but not exact. Let me tell you, independent or dependent. Firstly, let me classify what dependent demands are. In a manufacturing organization, I make automobiles. Okay. Say if my capacity is 200 cars every month of the same size and variety. How many tires do I require?
4.
4 per car. If I have a Stephanie, I need 5. And if I'm making 200 cars a month, how many tires do I require in a month? 1,000?
1,000 at max.
Yeah, maximum is 1,000 or 800, depending upon whether my model has a Stephanie or no, right? So I know for sure how many tires I would be needing for the car manufacturer. That's a dependent demand. Okay? And the independent demand is I sell refrigerators and I also sell, say, grillers or ovens Does a refrigerator have any connection with the grill or the geyser?
No, sir.
So they are totally independent, irrespective of the sale for this. The number of items sold would be so very different. So in that sense, it is called an independent demand. Okay. So we would be dealing in this unit with items of independent demand. And wherever there is a dependent demand occurring, it is called material resource planning, MRP. Okay. That will be dealt in a separate subject later. But we are not going to deal with the dependent demands. We are only going to talk about the independent demands in this particular course. But let me just get a clarification from you. Have you understood what a dependent demand and an independent demand is?
Yes, sir.
Very clear. Good. In addition to all these things that we have been talking about, there is also some sort of requirement of the maintenance and other requirements of processing. For example, when we manufacture items, we do not just manufacture products that are to be sold. We also manufacture items that we ourselves require for our organization. Not only organization requirements, but we also make use of consumables. Say, for example, when I'm manufacturing a product, whether I do it or not, I also have a consumption of paper in the office, stationery, right? I consume, even in an institute, we consume drinking water. Drinking water has nothing to do with my business of teaching or learning here, but there is a consumption of this. So these are all additional expenditures which also require some such sort of control on inventories. So we have, in our workshop, we make use of grease, oil, cooling fluids, waste cotton, and other sort of things that we probably at times, be using, petrol, diesel, and so on. So some of these are required for this. So these are all the various inventories that we require. So these are all manufacturing and sort of requirements that we have. Yeah. Inventory management. It's a scientific method of finding out how much stock should be maintained in order to meet the production demands and be able to provide the right type of material at the right time and right quantities and at competitive prices. Now, a very similar thing we have defined in marketing. Now, the question for every manager who is looking at inventory system is what levels of inventory should be maintained and when should we replenish the stocks. That means when should we place orders for the stocks, and when we place orders, and how large should be the order placed. Okay, so we are interested in these questions: how much, when to place an order, how much to order, and what levels of inventory should we maintain for our organization. These are very important in order to maintain the right type of material, right time, right quantities, and competitive prices. So, and when we talk about this inventory control system, what do we understand? We have a set of policies and guidelines which we follow in order to have a control on this. So we try to define some such sort of a method which is probably scientific to provide the right type of material at the right time in the right quantities and at the right economic price to sustain the given production schedule of our organization. This is what we are trying to do now. When I have try to define certain inventories as raw materials, work in process, finished goods, indirect inventories, or so and so, or miscellaneous inventories. Let me also try to bring to your notice that we have certain things called fluctuating inventories. Fluctuating inventories are those where we cannot predict accurately what is the demand, what is the sales position at this point of time. And probably the lead time is also cannot be expected. So therefore, there's a need to have some such sort of protection for us where we maintain certain buffers and safety for our operations. This we have discussed. So the fluctuations in the inventory, they are called fluctuating inventories. And there are anticipated inventories. Say, for example, for Diwali, Sivakasi is a place where most of these crackers are made. They prepare much ahead of time to build inventories so that the entire distribution takes place across the country. Large majority of inventories come from this place. Okay. So, but there is also usage whenever there are celebrations, sort of a thing. People still use this firecrackers and there's demand. But a large majority of consumption happens during Diwali festival. So this is, you are preparing for some such sort of a seasonal effect. Okay. For the future need, we are building up our reserves. And this is a big selling season for us in that sense for this. So, or a company might have a big promotion program coming in. So it tries to offer during the fag end of the financial year, it tries to, it has already reached a break-even level. It has been trying to make use of its production capacity fully. In that sense, whatever is being produced, it would have to sell. And there, probably profit is not a major concern, but it is trying to provide some such sort of brand image, building brand image, and so on. Therefore, buy one, get one free, or buy two, get one free sort of promotional schemes, or if you buy this, you get this free, similar sort of offers, so that you are making the customer buy more of your own product. Now, the strategy that we talked about in PLC, we are trying to implement with a different sort of strategy. So inventories are important in that particular context as well. At times, it is the lot size inventory. Lot size inventory is, we have to produce. When you operate certain machines, there is a functionality issue here. The same machine can be made use of for several different purposes. And in order to make adjustment of this machine, the setup costs us. So we lose time in operations if we are making frequent changes in the setup of this machine. Therefore, we have to have certain amount of inventory to be processed during this particular. So in that sense, it is a lot size inventory. Once you have made a particular setting for the machine, you take so much of production out of it. Then you change for a different operation and you further make use of it. So there are some operational issues here. In addition to this, there is also, transport issue. I am trying to procure, though I don't want to now. I wish to procure, I realize that furniture in China is much, much cheaper. They make use of rubber wood and samteak or some other materials which are not. So the majority of the organizations, what they did was they were visiting China and cargo. They have been lifting so much of material from China and finally getting them assembled here back in our country. So when you go for such a sort of thing, you buy a container full because shipment is necessary. If you fill half the container, it is not worthy. The amount that you pay for a container, you would like to make use of the volume. Therefore, in that particular sense, when I buy something in a truck, I see to it that my transportation cost is minimized by increasing the volume that is transported in that particular thing. Therefore, the distribution of cost on large majority of products would minimize the cost on each item. So that is the transportation inventories that I probably have to incur. So these are some of the types of inventories that we also have. Okay. Having said this, there are issues with respect to the inventory costs, which I wanted to tell you about. One is, when you talk about the costs, we have to say about two things. What is this cost that we are talking about? One is the cost of material. This we all understand. When I buy a pen, the pen costs me some 2 rupees or 10 rupees, whatever type of pen I buy. That's the cost of material. But sometimes when I buy a refrigerator sort of a thing, it is not just the cost of material. There is something called cost on material. That means to say, if my inventory is held up for a longer period of time, I need to maintain this particular inventory. I need to take care of it, probably, dust, the dust that it collects, I have to de-dust it and probably see that there are no damages, there's no pilferage, and the stock records are maintained properly, and it occupies space. More than this, when I sell my products, I look for a place which is in a commercial area. Not like, when I establish my production unit, probably it's in a remote area where it is in the outskirts of a city or place where we live. But when you are selling, you wish to be in the midst of the marketplace, okay, in the town itself. But the commercial cost of renting such a location is much, much higher. And a place occupying inventory would naturally also occupy a higher cost per square feet, right? In that particular sense, these are all called cost on inventory. So when we are talking about cost of inventories, it is the purchasing cost plus the holding cost that we have to require to understand. In addition to this, when the inventories are high, the return on investment, as we have defined by the numerator and denominator, the first instance would be down. And the storage costs would increase when my inventories are high. And I need to handle all these inventories very frequently and keep checking whether the shelf life is getting over, when to process. I have, a lot of, the medicines that I make use of, I have to see the expiry date because I have quite a list of medicines that I use. So I need to check when I buy, when I use, everything. So the handling cost is also there. Sometimes handling is not just manual. You probably need special equipment. As I was mentioning, a refrigerated truck or an air-conditioned place or such sort of freezing facility that you require. So, and more than this, when we are trying to change our business so very frequently, some of the raw materials or inventories become obsolete. So there is redundancy of materials. I probably no more require certain of the components that I probably possess. Okay. So therefore, obsolescence costs heavy on us. And we said about shelf life and the period of spoilage of the particular product, which is a greater concern. But if you do not have such inventories, then the problem is the stock out cost. I lose my image in the market if my product is not available. I lose my customers. My customers will switch on to my competitor. So the money that I have spent so far in building up the image of my organization, the brand image of my company, my products, is all being lost at this point of time. Therefore, the profitability is at stake. The future business or credibility is also at stake. Having said this, I also have the loss of customers. Then there will also be, if I do not have enough inventories, and if there is such an eventuality, there is a downtime of a particular machine or a particular operation. And that would also cost me. Okay. So I probably have to overcome that sort of downtime. That's the decoupling that we were talking about. And when my machines are not operating because of lack of raw materials, lack of material or inventories for processing, my labor, my manpower is idle, my machines are idle. And all this means cost for me. Therefore, it is not a cost-effective method. Therefore, to overcome such sort of a thing, I need to maintain certain minimum inventories or optimal inventories for that matter. Then, of course, the capacity utilization, besides the profit making of an organization and the requirements. So these are some of the reasons why I should not have inventories, more inventories, or why I need to have optimal inventories. Okay. So I think we did discuss a little so far. We don't want to miss any deliveries. We don't want to lose any sales because of lack of inventory. We do not plan for any production bottlenecks, or we don't want dissatisfied customers for just the inventory sake. Okay. And the main purpose naturally is smooth and efficient production flow that we wish to have, and keep process or processes continuously operating, thereby nullifying the effects of changes in supply or price and other eventualities. Any questions? Any questions, please?
No, sir. Nothing.
There should be some questions. Yeah.
Can, if time demands, like, can a production unit can become itself inventory?
Say that again. In what sense?
Like, suppose if like some like we take a power plant like which produces electricity.
Yeah.
We have means we have to stock up like some turbines, like if sometimes like happens like some turbines fails to function, then we need to deploy the other stocked up turbines in order that our electricity production remains stable.
Yeah. One thing I wish to make a mention here, it's a good question. The investment on these turbines is by itself a major investment. So creating an alternative for this to that production capacity is not always possible. But redundancy plans are always there within organizations. We try to see that there is something called preventive maintenance as well, so that we do not face such eventuality. But still, we come across failures. Sometimes some of the turbines are down and we have power shutdowns happening. Okay. But the present day, as far as energy is concerned, the present day concern is what all we produce, how do we store this, is the question today. See, the battery technologies that are coming up, the usage of energy, the depletion of resources that we are making use of. These are the major concerns. So one form of energy, how do we store this? There's a sort of an inventory, of course, but much more difficult than this physical sort of a thing, because there are several limitations on this form of energies. Does that satisfy you? This one?
Yes, sir.
Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir. My doubt clear.
Okay. Yeah. So if there are no questions, probably we'll stop here. Continue in the next class. Okay.
Sir, can you
Thank you.
share the recording in mail?
Pardon me?
Can you share the recording in mail?
Okay. Is this not being accessible to you all?
No, sir.
All the classes?
No, sir.
Why? What's the difficulty?
Actually, we are not getting the recording link or anything.
Should be. You didn't tell me. I am not aware. I thought this is all accessible to you all. Because I am recording every class with the purpose of making it available. Okay.
Like clicking the link, it is showing the like credentials, like you have to log in, and but it is showing that your username is invalid. Like instead, it should show our recordings. Like directly putting password, you can access it.
Okay. There's a possibility. Probably there's another option that it gives me whenever I'm scheduling a class. It gives me an option. One is my personal room sort of a thing, and the other time is a one-time meeting. Okay. So let me try next time for the other option of one-time meeting. I'll give you the recordings. Okay. Whatever is available, I'll probably share it with you or your CRs.
Okay,
So
sir.
that you
Thank
will
you.
all be able. Yes. Okay. Thank you.